Sometimes when assembling models you can be left with gaps. So in this case and on this skeleton I didn't push it together hard enough when I was assembling it and I've been left with a gap, which you can see there. From the front you can't see it, but from the back you can. So I'm going to fix that with a little bit of green stuff. So I'll go through the steps for working with green stuff. As you can see from the large block of green stuff, I've cut this much. So this is going to be more than enough to use to fill that gap. So I start kneading it together. I also have a cup of water here that is clean and I've literally just got from the tap. I add a little water to it. This will increase the malleability and make it easier to work into the gap. So I'm going to come back in a second having kneaded the green stuff so that it's completely green. I've now got a very thin ribbon of green stuff. So, is it thin enough to fit in there? Not quite. What I may do is make a tiny little sausage of green stuff, like so, thin that down, press that against where it needs to go, and work it in with this knife. So I then again get a very thin piece and using the very tip of the knife work it into the hole. Doing it again. So then I take another tool, in this case the awl that I use for marking holes to be drilled in, and I use that to push it right in, and to do so in line with the ribs. So with green stuff, what a lot of people will focus on is getting it perfect first time. But and having your tools be a little bit wet can really help controlling the green stuff. It doesn't have to be perfect first time, because if the green stuff is wet, you can work it with a tool. Now I've not been using a dedicated sculpting tool, but you can see I'm smoothing it in with the ribs and the vertebrae so it falls in line. And then when it's dry, tomorrow I'm going to see the gap is much less prominent. A little bit there, but I've just got rid of that. So you can see that that gap has been smoothed away. There'll be a little bit of cleanup when it's dry, but when I spray undercoat that grey, as I will the rest of the skeletons, you won't be able to see that gap, which means it will have done its job. Green stuff is a pretty versatile tool. It's often used in drilling and pinning. You're not going to be doing any drilling and pinning on your Shadespire unless you are very heavily converting them, but if you keep it wet, it stays malleable for a good 20-30 minutes. As soon as it starts to dry out, it starts to get hard. So within 24 hours, that should be hard enough to trim any excess and then undercoat the model. But that was from a tiny, tiny sliver of green stuff. If you're going to buy it in a reasonable amount. You may not need a lot, but what you get will last you for years. So that's how to fix a gap on a Shadespire model. If you've liked this video, hit like or subscribe. If you're talkative, leave a comment below. Otherwise, good gaming.